Everybody, this is gonna be a fun one because I'm really excited about this one personally. Y'all know how I feel about the Klingon Empire. Well, this is one of, if not the best PvP ship in all of G5. We're gonna talk about the Rotarran, though she is great at everything, whether it be armadas, whether it be PvE, anything you want to do, she can do it. We're gonna talk about her today, how to crew her, and there she is with a beautiful Kronos in the background. Let's go ahead and jump right into it.
Fancy intro music, yeah! Woohoo!
So I want to start this video off showcasing the power of Rotarran. So here is mine right here, and to be clear, with the skin on, that is the only thing that makes my build non-free to play. So that skin cost me 20 bucks. Everything else I have on there, the FT, the CT, the officers, etc., 100% free to play. And here she is taking down a level 67 player with an 8.6 billion power USS Akira, which is a 63 uncommon. Now, I know a lot of people talk all the time about the uncommons in G6 being weaker, but this is actually a tiered up one, as you can see, it's heading to level 60. So it's not like this is a tier 4, tier 5. This is a pound for pound, even matchup in terms of level, tier, officers, and the Rotarran still smacks it down. What helps the Rotarran be so successful, number one, is its firing pattern. It has a beautiful firing pattern that everybody can take advantage of and should take advantage of, because I encourage you, if you're watching this video, to go after the Rotty. I have had a lot of pleasure flying with this thing, and as I said, the PvP is huge. What makes it so good? Well, as you can see on your screen, look at this pattern. You got 4 shots in the very beginning. If you look, all kinetic, so we know kinetics tend to punch really hard. Not necessarily harder than energy, but harder than energy. But you look at round 2, man, hitting with another 9 shots, and then round 3, hitting with another 9 shots. You know, this is just something that you don't see from not even just G6 ships, but not every other ship has this type of volatile firepower, especially early on, allowing you to put a lot of lead down range, as the saying would go. And when that's talking about PvP, obviously you can see your result, but keep in mind that that shot magnification also is going to matter when it comes to things like armadas, things like hostile grinding. So it's one of those that, like, yes, a lot of people get enamored with the Enterprise D, and understandably so. It's one of the most classic, iconic ships in Star Trek lore, but so is the Rotarran. And the Rotarran provides something that you just don't get everywhere, which is versatility. Because as much as I love the Enterprise D, and she is a beautiful boat, she is not as good of a PvP boat as the Rotarran. So getting the Rotarran allows you to have multiple worlds all at once. That doesn't mean the Enterprise is weak. Y'all have seen my Enterprise many times. But if you look at what is available in the game today, at the time of making this video, a lot of, say, even the PvP FCs, the fleet commanders, are centered around critical builds and things the Rotarran already does really well. Because you're going to typically run Interceptor Strike Team on a Rotarran, maybe Carol, Honor Guard Worf Lorica, or a number of Interceptor-based crews. If you've been running in STFC for any given time, most of interceptors are running those type of critical builds. Well, Locutus, who's behind me, same thing. What does Locutus do? Well, I've talked about it being one of the least valuable FCs, but when you're doing things in arenas or doing things, anything for a interceptor, he's huge, increasing the shots. We just talked about how many shots the Rotarran has. Well, look at that right there. And then you talk about the critical builds, the critical damage. Well, you see that here for Locutus. You're also going to see the exact same thing over here in Fleet Commander Khan. Don't forget, there are 2 free-to-play ways to get Fleet Commander Khan. So if you're level 60, you can grind out and have him as well, allowing you to take advantage of all these bonuses that specifically really benefit a Rotarran. Because again, where are you most likely to find these crit builds? On these interceptors. This is where it becomes the most common thing to see. And again, Q cannons can be a good thing to help counter that, but when you overload with so much of a critical build, you can overcome those negatives that might be presented to you. And I don't want to sell this thing off as a end-all be-all, but it's quite strong. But let's look at some other things that she does very well. All right, what about the Rotarran versus one of the hardest hostiles in the game, at least at the time of this video? How about against the augments, but specifically punching up on the augments? I want to show you how this girl can do. Now again, I'm doing all this to show you the potential of what a Rotarran can be. Or in my case, the Nemesis. Shout out to Nemesis, who purchased the ship skin for me. What a Rotarran can be. Now keep in mind, it's also not just the ship. There's research, favors, officers, everything plays into how high you can punch. But I do love showing players what they can get to. Really want to stress that all these things you can get to free to play, or you can purchase to do it faster. But let's talk about some of the tips, tricks to make stuff like this happen. So, number one, how do you get the Rotarran? It's 2 million faction credits, and there are a couple ways to do it free to play. I do want to stress that if you want to do the faction credit way as the predominant way, don't forget that you can grind 4 faction credits directly here in the Mirror universe. I actually will go personally to Mirror Sharon. That's where you'll find those surveys that pay out faction rep, and in the chests themselves, faction credits. And about 100 chests in here gives me between 10 and 15,000 total faction credits between the 3 different factions. Also, don't forget that with your Voyager, you can summon that elusive Borg cube in systems like Missile Loop, for example, and then killing that cube will pay out messages. Use those messages like you would with any other scout to turn those in for more faction credits in your alliance, or I'm sorry, in your faction area. So in that case, we're talking Klingons. You would come in here and you would go down and turn in your message exchange so that you could get more of your Rotarran blueprints. There are also ways to create discounts on the cost if you're doing PvP with the Terran Empire, where you've got those innovative engineerings. You see, I have the G5 one, thus lowering the cost for me on getting that. All things to plan for long term. In other terms of sourcing for the blueprints, you do have the away team store, though again, that might not be something that many of you want to jump into quite yet, because so many of those currencies are required. Those Pioneer crests are needed for a lot of different things, but it is available, as you can see, G5 ship blueprints right here, if you want to go after it with a little bit of a high price tag until you've gotten really deep into the priority 1 away team sets where you're earning a lot of those currencies. So attaining it can be made in those 2 primary ways: faction messages and faction credits and the away team credits. You can also, if you really want to, don't forget you can use Latinum to buy faction credits in the faction store itself. So you would simply have a deficit of faction credits. Let's just say that we were in the Federation one, Romulan, Klingon, doesn't matter, and you went to purchase a ship and you didn't have the credits. If you click the button, it'll say, hey, do you want to use Latinum instead? So if you want to go that route, that's how you go about acquiring it. Grinding for it's not really feasible. You do have some chest drops that you can try to rely on in your Xindi chest drops and over here in your G5s, but how well is that going to work for you? I'd prefer a lot of players plan for the future, as in when you're heading over to 60, you know that I'm going to, let's just say you're doing your Rotarran, you're going to scrap a Max Pylum or you're going to scrap a Hector to help pay for that Rotarran, and you're going to have the blueprints ready to go as you hit 60, but if you're looking for ways to pick them up, there are some ways. So let's talk upgrade costs. Where should you take it? Does Res 579 rule still apply? Well, if you're not doing the scrapping method we talk about, for example, scrapping pylums and hegtons to get here, then yeah, the 579 method is actually still quite applicable, because even a tier 9 or tier 7 Rotarran will handle most of what you need to do on a daily basis at level 60. However, if you're doing the scrapping methods we talk about all the time, and if you haven't seen those videos, I encourage you to watch them. I can ping the Enterprise version at the end of this one. Similar strategy, just doing interceptors instead of explorers. It's going to allow you to do much, much more. Now, obviously, I'm PvP focused, so that requires me being, like this, tier 11. You can see this is a naked tier 11 at 2.5 billion power. But this is also quite common. You see a lot of these ships getting up here. And the cost really comes down to how much are you doing in the game. For example, if you're doing your Continuum Refinery, that's giving you a pretty consistent, steady stream of the epics that you're going to need to upgrade this. If you're doing the scrapping mechanic, that's going to handle these ship parts you need to do this. But if you're not doing those things, then it could be a little bit slower. Now, to be very clear, not everybody has to play the same way, and you don't have to go this large. You really can be effective at it just as a tier 7, as my 579 method for a long time has talked about. For those unfamiliar with the basic idea and paradigm behind 579, tier 5, if you just want to get by with hitting hostiles but not really punching up. Tier 7 if you want to be stronger, especially for certain armadas and have better warp range. And tier 9 if you want to be capable in PvP for most faction ships. Now, as we get into G5 and G6, you can talk about going even higher, such as tier 12, because the ships go much higher than you're used to in G3 and G4. But the general thought process is the same. How far do you want to progress in your game? A tier 7 one might only be a 1.5 billion power, but again, will handle basically every loot that comes out as long as you're keeping up with your favors, research, artifacts, officers, etc. The long list of things needed to be successful in this game. But this is a ship that, because of firing pattern and because of the ability to scrap G4, everybody can plan for. That's the big thing with these G5 epics. You can plan for them all the way back at like level 42 as you start your process of what am I going to do? whether that's the ISS jelly to get your Enterprise D, or whether that's even going for your Pylum at 46, knowing that your long-term goal is to scrap it so that you max it out and you can start going to around tier 10 with it. It won't take you all the way to tier 12 on a Rotarran, but depending on your efficiency researches, will take you to about tier 10 if you scrap a Pylum, which is still very valuable and very strong for whether you're talking PvE, as you see in this video, or PvP, as you also saw. One of my favorite ships in the game, so much so that I've got a Lego version, and I just freaking love a good Rotarran. Let me know what you think about this beautiful bird down in the comment section below. And if you have more specific questions on how she works, how to load her out, let me know. Remember, when it comes to ships, there's not really crew loadouts that are specific to it. In the instance of PvP, Interceptor Strike Team is going to be your best bet. But in terms of PvE and Armadas, stick with your normal stuff. If you're fighting an entity, then you're probably going to do stuff like Dejas Torah or Gwen DeMarco. If you're fighting the Augment, same idea. You have hostiles that have crew-specific things you go after, but as far as the ship itself, besides a PvP-centric team around interceptors, you can load it out with whatever it is you were loading out before. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you need. Let me know who you are down in the comment section down below. Love and appreciate every single one of you. Live long and plunder. Stay safe out there, Space Cowboys. Deuces, that's me. Catch you on the next Star Trek League Man video. I'm out.
I would like to request to Scopely to add more Klingons to the game. That is what I was told to do, and so I am doing it. Which, you know, is not maybe the best thing as a leader to just do what you're told, but it seems like a good request to make to add more Klingons. Everything is better with Klingons, am I right? I am right, because I'm a Klingon. Klingon mach tach judge! We are Klingons, let it remain. All right, Morel's on a roll today. She's very excited.